A conservative independent reporter arrested in Portland last night after being attacked by Antifa. I'm going to cover that story right here on American Advocates Plus. Day 3 of the government shutdown looms. At time of recording, they're set to vote on whether or not the government will reopen within the next hour. What will happen with that? Trump is playing it brilliantly. I'm going to cover all angles of it once again. And also a ginormous breaking story, somehow not being covered as much as it should be when it comes to the Trump and Jeffrey Epstein files. This one's going to blow you away. It might even make you mad depending on what aisle you sit on. And then finally, Mamdani's campaign is getting exposed. Once again, you're not seeing this covered, but I've done some research on this, and the people who are donating to him, very, very interesting. You're going to want to find that out as well. So stay tuned for all of that and maybe a little bit more right here, right now on American Advocates. That is independent journalist Nick Sortor, who I follow on X and have been following on X for quite a while now. He's taken to the streets of Portland to cover the Antifa riots as they go up head to head against what's supposed to be the law enforcement on the side of the civilians there. Instead, in a cruel turn of events, you see them arresting this conservative reporter after getting into a couple of quarrels throughout the night with Antifa rioters, Antifa militant domestic terrorists, mind you. And the entire internet is up in arms about it. Now you can see all throughout the night here, Nick Sortor was on the streets reporting on everything that was happening, bravely doing so, as these Antifa militants are very dangerous, very unstable people, including in this moment right here where he actually catches them burning an American flag and decides to actually step in and save the flag from being burned.
We got a Trump supporter. We got a Trump supporter right here.
Oh, he's putting it on the ground and he's making it worse. And now he's standing on it.
Motherfucker.
Now he's standing on it. You're not supposed to stand on it. Oh, now
He also has been no stranger into getting into potentially dangerous situations throughout his reporting in Portland over the past couple of days. This is camera footage that occurred not last night, and this was not what led to his arrest, according to what I can tell. But you can see here, things have gotten pretty intense on the streets already as he surrounds himself essentially with Antifa militants. You can even see his cameraman to the very left there in that zoomed out view is wearing a Charlie Kirk Freedom t-shirt with a Make America Great Again hat. So I mean, they kind of stand out like a sore thumb. You can see for yourself what's going on here, though, and just how hostile these people can get.
This is America. This is America. This is America. This is America.
You saw him step back. You all push back. Tell whatever fucking narrative you want. You all of you have eyes.
This is exactly what they
Put that fucking gun down.
Come on, come and get him! Touch him! Come and get him, too! What are y'all allowed to do something to take pictures for a fucking reason, motherfucker?
I can take pictures of wherever I want. We're in public. This is
I
America.
didn't even ask you.
This is, I don't care.
I didn't even ask
You get in
you.
people's face
I
and take
didn't even
pictures.
hear your
This is
ask.
America.
Did I ask
This
you?
is America.
Did
This
I
is
ask
why
you?
we need to get rid of illegals,
Then-
because they don't know American laws, bro.
You know what? I'm not
This
even
is
legal, bitch.
well,
Exactly. What are you gonna say now, motherfucker? Exactly.
Hey, you! I'll fucking fuck the shit out of you, motherfucker. You'll never, I see you.
They're taking pictures of the ones
I'll fucking head in that pavement.
That's what the
No,
fuck you're fighting
no,
for.
I will fuck
Hey,
your
come get
I will
your
fuck
shit.
your fucking mouth open, motherfucker.
Come get your shit. What are y'all gonna do? Are y'all gonna do anything? Get your shit. Are y'all gonna do fucking anything? Are y'all gonna do come get your shit. I see you, bitch. You gonna do anything? You gonna do anything? Come get your shit. Help your fellow woman? I don't know. Are you gonna do anything? You fucking fat hoe.
This, of course, kept boiling down this way as Nick Sortor continued to journey out into the streets, reporting on everything that he could see go down and reporting on it for his X page. Of course, this didn't turn into anything incredibly dangerous. He received some threats from an incredibly old-looking, Albert Einstein-looking guy who sadly makes up a good chunk of Antifa's military. But then going into last night, we have some emerging footage of Nick Sortor getting into yet another physical quarrel and having to defend himself. The camera angle here is not ideal, but you can see him in a light blue, lavenderish looking hoodie, doing his best to avoid fighting too much, but also doing his best to not get trampled by the mob of Antifa unstable rioters.
Hey! Mark's a veteran. He's got it.
You're better than fucker. Right on the table, Lord. Fucking kid dead alert. Kid dead alert. Kid dead alert. Fucking shadows. Fucking street.
And look at Portland PD just hanging out watching people get assaulted.
You can see there they take to calling him all kinds of obscene names that are less than flattering, as well as getting a little bit physically imposing on him, which in a lot of states can actually be considered assault in and of itself, to use your body to block someone's path, impede their path, and or physically threaten them. That in and of itself is typically categorized as assault. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think battery is assault, and there's actually a great distinguishing factor between the two of them. Assault is the act of making someone feel physically threatened, and that can be done in a lot of ways, whereas battery is the actual act of what most people think is assaulting someone. Battery is when you get physical and lay your hands on someone. And so, you know, Nick Sortor knows what's going on. He's out there on the streets reporting on this stuff, so he knows he's in harm's way, inherently. He winds up eventually going from this situation to the police. And you can see here there's a lot of Portland police officers on bicycles, and Nick Sortor is around them while you actually have some Antifa members complaining to the police at the same time. They're complaining to the police, Antifa. The people who hate the police and hate law enforcement and are trying to actively ruin their own town through violent demonstrations are complaining to the police about being recorded against their will out in public. You can see the poor little Antifa guy trying to hide his identity with an umbrella. He doesn't want to be on camera. And Nick just kind of taunting him, to be honest, but not doing anything illegal, that's for sure.
No, I would agree. Yeah, we didn't get very much info about it.
And of course, moments later after that, the police deem Nick Sortor to be the aggressor here, the suspect, and they place him under arrest and haul him off to jail. I kid you not.
Whoa.
I'm not doing
What's your name, bro?
Totally.
You're ready to turn that phone off. Let me scan your body. I'll have a conversation with you. I'm just going to scan you for other devices. It's universal precaution. We're going to have a conversation about a bigger picture here. Shit's about to go down old school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, people around here don't realize they better pray to God than ask for that kind of stuff. What comes next, I wish I had.
And so what was Nick Sortor arrested for exactly? Well, I can't seem to find any of that information out. Perhaps after this video is released, more information will be put out to the public, especially because this is starting to catch nationwide media attention, as well as attention now from the Trump administration. I'll show you both circumstances of that happening in just a second here, but I can't seem to figure out what he did wrong. Recording in public is absolutely within his amendment protected rights. You have no expectation of privacy when out in public. So when you step out into public, Like all of these Antifa militant terrorist rioters are out there in public doing what they're doing. They have no right to tell you that you cannot record them. That's not how it works. So Nick Sortor, and of course we saw some physical scuffles happen here, but Sortor was always on the defending end of those scuffles. He was not instigating them other than by the fact that he was recording them, which apparently seems to trigger these goonish ghouls who know they're doing wrong and don't want their face on camera for obvious reasons, especially in light of the fact that MAGA has become increasingly comfortable embracing what we now call accountability culture. If we see your face and we find out who you are, well, we'll ruin your personal life by getting you fired from your job and making sure that you suffer consequences for your reprehensible behavior. And any of these Antifa rioters who have their identities exposed are at risk of that happening to them, and they know it, and they don't want their face exposed. So they get violent, and then the police decide, you know what, Mr. Independent Conservative journalist, your very presence out here is riling these people up, so you're under arrest. I mean, that had to have been the conclusion. I just can't understand any other reason why he was arrested. And the even funnier thing about it is, Nick Sortor even made a tweet about this the other day when he was in that first initial physical scuffle here. This was, of course, 2 days ago, I believe. And he tweets and he says, Portland is a effing third world hellhole. If I defend myself, I will be the one who gets arrested, not the assailant. Antifa is in full control out here. President Trump needs to step in. Very prophetic of him because, well, fast forward less than 24 hours and he defends himself and gets arrested. So he called that one pretty accurately. Now, of course, Fox News has picked up on the story here. This is gaining nationwide attention. A terrible look for Portland police.
We did talk to Nick pretty much minutes after he was released from jail this morning, so we asked him what went down last night. What he told us is he was out here filming protesters as they were getting maced by federal agents, and he said it was a little embarrassing for the protesters because they were shrieking and crying about having the mace in their eyes, so they didn't like being recorded. So they kind of chased him down the street a little bit, then surrounded him and pushed him down into a flower bed. He says they then punched and assaulted him, and he tried to defend himself. Take a listen.
So they threw multiple punches at me. They broke my camera by hitting that. So I was on the ground at that point. I tried to swing. I missed. I saw the opportunity to get up and get away. And that's when I went over to the police officers, which I thought, maybe they'd help me. But no, instead they threw me in handcuffs. This is going to backfire on them tremendously. It already is. Okay, people knew that something out here stunk and that it was corrupt and that the police they take the side of the violent criminals that are here every single day, assaulting ICE officers, assaulting journalists. And then a reporter comes and, tries to embed deep within the chaos that's going in out here, and he's the one that gets arrested.
And Nick went on to say he got a personal phone call from Attorney General Pam Bondi informing him that DOJ is launching a full investigation into the Portland Police Bureau in relation to his arrest out here last night. But it doesn't stop there. DHS also giving their reaction to this, announcing that as a result of this arrest, DHS is going to be surging CBP and ICE here to Portland. And the city of Portland was already unhappy with how much ICE was out here in the first place. All of this happening in the context that the National Guard is being deployed out here. They just haven't shown up yet.
Well, nothing like the Portland police wrongfully arresting a conservative reporter who was only trying to defend himself and report on what was happening in the streets to initiate much more federal government action, like ICE ramping it up, like Attorney General Pam Bondi now promising a full DOJ investigation into these very likely corrupt Portland police officers, and then sending in the National Guard. I can't think of a better justification now for Trump to send in the National Guard than for Portland police to ignore Antifa rioters and to ignore assault and battery on a conservative reporter and arrest the reporter instead. Than that. I mean, it doesn't get more crazy than that. Send the National Guard in by all means. They will have to be the ones to step up and actually quell what's happening there now, because it should be more clear than ever now that the Portland police are incapable of it. Perhaps their hands are tied by higher ups. I don't want to just throw every police officer in Portland under the bus like that, but that is a terrible, terrible look. And I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the breaking news this morning about it. And just minutes ago, before I started recording, a weirdly timed, unusual press conference was held by Carolyn Levitt for a Friday, where she addressed this incident specifically. So yes, this incident's not only receiving media coverage, but it's come to the attention of the entire Trump administration as well.
It is not their city. It is the American people's city, and President Trump is going to restore that. I just spoke with the president about this, and he has directed his team here at the White House to begin reviewing aid that can potentially be cut in Portland. We will not fund states that allow anarchy. There will also be an additional surge of federal resources to Portland immediately, including enhanced CBP and ICE resources.
And so there you have it. And eventually in that meeting, she wound up even addressing Nick Sortor by name and talking about how reprehensible this whole circumstance is. I'll be interested to see how Attorney General Pam Bondi follows up on this. Let's see what that Department of Justice investigation leads to. Republicans, I hate to say this, but some of this Trump administration is just full of people who speak what I would call boomer slop. And that is basically just me saying, essentially, they talk tough, they speak mighty, but then their actions are incredibly disappointing compared to the narrative they put out there. And so I hate to say it, but I can just imagine the emotion and the outrage that will be delivered about this by these boomers. They're Gen Xers technically, but these older Trump administration people, like Pam Bondi, I'm talking about her. And will it lead to anything? I have my doubts. What do you think about it, though? Let me know in the comments below. Portland is probably a lost cause, and it's like the Antifa capital of America. That is 100% for certain. And, you know, for all these people out here who state, oh, it's just an idea, it's not an official organization, go screw yourself. These are organized militant rioters. And I think in a future episode, I'm going to expose that because there's some incredible independent documented footage from people breaching their headquarters that shouldn't exist since they're just an idea and showcasing just how organized they really are. That's going to be in a future episode of American Advocate. So be sure to subscribe and stay up to date so you can catch that and a whole lot more that I'm doing on this channel. Of course, however, if you dye your hair blue every couple of weeks and you're about 100 pounds overweight and you don't know what gender you are, please, by all means, dislike this video and never come back. And now on to the next story. We are officially on day 3 of the government shutdown. Again, at time of recording for this video, they are set to vote on this bill to fund the government within the next hour. We'll see how that goes, but I'm reasonably confident the Democrats are going to stand firm on keeping the government shut down. So much so that Hakeem Jeffries here is actually incredibly confident that President Trump is going to be the one to cave to their $1.5 trillion demands when it comes to funding illegal aliens in this country and giving them health care.
Dynamic, and given the way that the president has been tweeting memes about you, has been, in your words and the words of Democrats, already dismantling healthcare, what makes you think that he will negotiate anything? What makes you think that he and Republicans will cave to you?
Public sentiment. At the end of the day, the public knows that Donald Trump and Republicans have shut the federal government down and that they're continuing to engage in the chaos and the cruelty and the corruption that we've seen from this administration from day one of the presidency. Again, this is the first week of their shutdown, but we've had months of chaos and cruelty unleashed on the American people. And the American people are paying close attention. And they know that it was Donald Trump and Republicans who have shut the government down. They also know that House Democrats are fighting and Senate Democrats are fighting to protect the health care of the American people, because the Republican health care crisis has been devastating to people all across the country, devastating to working class Americans, devastating to rural America, to urban America, to the heartland of America, to small town America, and to black and brown communities all across America. We've never seen anything like this in terms of the pain that has been inflicted on the American people by Republicans.
And you got to admire, at the very least, how they just stick to their liar narrative no matter what. They are still trying to address this problem as Trump is taking away healthcare from American people. Notice how they don't use the term American citizens, though. They don't like that term a whole lot because that would actually not be the truth for what they're pushing for. And they're talking about cruelty. I got news for you, Hakeem Jeffries. Deportations are not cruel. They're part of a very legal process. And truthfully, for some of the people being deported out of this country, it's a lot more gentle of a process than they perhaps deserve when you actually look at the criminal record of a lot of these scumbags who are in this country illegally committing crimes, heinous crimes, horrendous crimes, and then being deported for it. They deserve a lot worse, in my opinion. But so confident is Hakeem Jeffries that Trump will be the one to cave to their demands and give them $1.5 trillion. Let's see how President Donald Trump has been speaking about this shutdown, though.
There was an OMB memo going around suggesting that there might be firings during the shutdown. Do you think that will happen if the shutdown goes for a little bit of time, sir?
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault. And it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place. And I will probably do that.
And just like tied in with that previous story moments ago I covered with Nick Sortor being assaulted and then arrested by Portland police, they're now cutting funding to Portland. So we're seeing this happen. They've been cutting funding to states like Wisconsin, I believe, is one of the other ones. And there's a lot going on. They're following through on a lot of this. They've already gotten 154,000 forced resignations to cut down and trim the fat off of the government job market that's been overinflated, largely in part because of Joe Biden, who created a bunch of senseless, useless government jobs to artificially inflate the jobs market during his presidency, of course. This was one of the best things that could have happened from the conservative standpoint, and President Donald Trump is virtually giddy about it. So it doesn't seem to me like Hakeem Jeffries is correct in the fact that Trump will cave on this. I don't think any of the Republicans are going to cave on any of this because their demands are next level outrageous. They're Looney Tunes level hilarious. And some of the consequences that we're seeing even, like Planned Parenthood. This was massive news yesterday. Planned Parenthood clinics in Wisconsin have halted their abortion services due to the funding crisis. They can no longer access Medicaid funds. I don't know about you, but I voted for that. I'm thrilled that that's happening. When I see stories like this, I say, let's just keep the government shut down. Why reopen it? Why reopen it? Like, that's one of the best things that could have ever happened coming out of this. At the very least, that's why I hope the government stays shut down for the next 30 days, because the amount of work, unhindered, unobstructed work that President Donald Trump can accomplish during this shutdown is going to be glorious. And I've covered in my last episode, again, why Chuck Schumer looks terrible during this. So it only hurts the Democrats. The truth is also being put out there by Speaker Mike Johnson, who just comes out and says it like it is and says, you know, this government shutdown is happening because of Democrats.
Well, welcome everybody to day 2 of the Democrat shutdown. Let's make absolutely clear what's happening here. Real pain is being inflicted upon the American people because 44 Democrats in the Senate have voted for the third time to reject the completely nonpartisan, completely clean, very simple 24-page continuing resolution that we passed in the House here 2 weeks ago. Now, why did we do that? For a refresher for everyone. We have been working very hard, this leadership team, to get Congress working again. Congress has not done the appropriations process appropriately for many years now. And so we have forced the muscle memory back. Our appropriators have done a great job in bipartisan fashion, by the way. And they've worked very hard and passed 12 separate appropriations bills through the committee as is supposed to be done. We passed 3 of those off the House floor. The Senate did its work. For the first time in years, the Senate passed 3 appropriations bills off the floor. Those bills don't match up exactly. So the way the system works, everybody remembers from civics, is that when the 2 chambers have bills that don't align perfectly, you put together a conference committee. That's been done. All of that work's been done very deliberately, very carefully, and as good stewards of taxpayer resources. The problem is we ran out of time because the end of the fiscal year is September 30th. So we did the logical, simple, good faith thing. Instead of loading up a continuing resolution to keep the lights on, to keep the government open so this process can continue, instead of loading it up with poison pills or gimmicks or tricks, we sent over a very simple continuing resolution that every single Democrat in the Senate has voted for in the past, just to keep the government open for the people, so that we could get to November 21st, 7 weeks, to allow more time for this process to play out. That is what happened. Now, the Democrats did something they've never done before. Chuck Schumer has led them all to vote against it.
Now, not only does Mike Johnson just come out there like that and state, oh, yeah, this is the Democrats' fault. Here's why. Here's the history of the Democrat Party. They've never done anything like this before. They're only doing it because of Trump and because of Chuck Schumer, etc., which is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm glad to see that he's taking a stand like that. But Mike Johnson takes it a step further, which is even better. And he cites proof of all of their lies, using their own version of demands, their own written down demands against them, referring to it by page, and stating, in fact, that you can go on the government website and view this for yourself, which you can, and I have done, and I recommend you do as well. I mean, it's beautiful. And after I show you that clip of him doing so, stay tuned afterwards for a hilarious CNN rendition of it, because you'll notice I am showing you this from the CNBC side of the reporting. Obviously, multiple broadcasting networks were recording this. CNN, though, had an absolute meltdown over this. And in true liberal broadcast mainstream media fashion, they did the most despicable thing that we've seen them do countless times. So stay tuned for that. But first, you got to listen to this because it's brilliant how Mike Johnson cites their sources and states exactly where you can find their outrageous demands.
Now, why are we saying that they want to return and restore taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens? Because that's exactly what they did. When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats, Chuck Schumer, filed a counter-proposal. Now, what was in that counter-proposal? You can see it for yourselves. In fact, if you're watching at home, go to my website right now, speaker.gov. Go to the press releases tab and you'll see it. It's listed right there. Just click on it. I'd like you to turn in your hymnals to page 57, okay? Section 2141. It is there in black letter. They filed this. This is not a talking point. This is what they proposed. They wanted to add, instead of the clean CR that keeps the government open for 7 more weeks to allow us to finish the work, they proposed a wild list of partisan priorities. Among them, they want to return $500 million to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to prop up left-leaning and biased media organizations. We're not doing that. The American people don't want us to do that. We don't need the Corporation for Public Broadcasting funded by taxpayers anymore because we're in their age of ubiquitous media. There's, 200 of you guys here? There's so many outlets. We don't need to do that. We're not going to do that. They wanted to cut, in the Democrats' counter-proposal, I want you to read it for yourself, speaker.gov. Go there and check it out. They want to remove the rural hospital fund that Republicans fought so hard to put into the One Big Beautiful Bill. We set $50 billion aside to take care of rural hospitals. Why would Chuck Schumer want to get rid of that? I don't know. A lot of those rural hospitals are in red states. You have to decide for yourself what the motivations are here. But they say they're for health care. Why would they want to do that? The other thing that they put in there is very important. And on page 57 in section 2141, not a Republican talking point, read from the Democrats' document themselves. They said that they want to repeal the health provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now, why is that so important? Because I want to tell you what those health provisions did. They eliminated all of the taxpayer-funded benefits going to illegals.
And so there you have it, the amount of bombshells that he absolutely dropped on the Democrat Party in just those 2 minutes alone are staggering. First and foremost, I do want to just cover the public broadcast network funding one, because that is an outrageous demand. We're talking NPR and PBS. And, you know, his point is incredible there. There's like 200 journalists there. It's ubiquitous now, and there's plenty of media. So they don't need publicly funded government broadcast networks anymore to begin with. But on top of it, NPR and PBS shot themselves in their own foot by becoming incredibly liberally biased And it was a gambit that they took in doing so that they ultimately lost, as Trump regained power, is now currently the president, and will no longer be tolerating that. If you're going to be funded by the government, you should at the very least be as unbiased as possible. And when I tuned into PBS on like election night, for instance, it was clear that they were incredibly liberal. They despised President Donald Trump. They wanted Kamala Harris to win. And everything about their reporting was disgusting. It made me want to vomit. That's a government-funded broadcast network, or at least it was at the time. And I was thrilled to see NPR be defunded, as well as PBS. They now have to run commercials like any other network to try to stay on the air. Deserved. Perhaps if they had done a better job being less biased, way less biased, then they could still be funded. They wouldn't have been in the crosshairs, but they found themselves justifiably so in Trump's crosshairs. They're defunded. They're never getting funded again. I don't want them funded again. He's completely spot on about that. And then, of course, at the end there, he drops the bombshell again on the healthcare for illegal aliens. It's just in there. And what Democrats count on is that their party of voters, let me see what my thermostat is. It says, it's a little warm in here, 74. That's about the average IQ of a liberal voter. And they know it. And they know these people only read headlines and only consume, 30-second clips on the internet. And so all they have to do is lie and say, oh, the Trump administration wants to take away your health care. And people believe it. They believe it. But the truth is, if you actually do any research, and I'm talking you just spend 5 minutes of research time, then you see that they're full of absolute shit. And Mike Johnson points it out there, points out everything. And people say, oh, well, there is no federal health care for illegal aliens. It's a loophole. What they want to do is open up the loophole for the states to be able to provide this. That's not going to happen. Now, like I stated, this was CNN's version of Mike Johnson delivering this speech. They have an absolute meltdown. The entire network does. Take a listen to how they handle this.
The Working Families Tax Cut included a huge provision. A big chunk of that bill was the health provisions. Now, why are we saying that they want to restore taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens? Because that's exactly what they did. When they rejected the clean CR that we sent over, the Senate Democrats.
All right, we're listening here to Speaker Johnson. He's trying to frame the shutdown as a Democratic shutdown. He also falsely claimed that Democrats want to give extend health care to illegal immigrants. That is not true. Illegal immigrants are not eligible for federal health care programs.
Are you actually surprised that happened, though? I wasn't. Now, this was actually being shared right on. Speaker Mike Johnson shared this clip. This is what he has to say about it. He says, CNN is not a news organization. They cut off the Republican press conference to censor the truth from the American people and lie about indisputable facts. On page 57 of the Democrats' own bill, they insist we restore $200 billion in health care subsidies for illegal aliens. CNN must correct this. And it's like, yeah, thanks, CNN. I was busy watching Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, deliver absolute facts and talk about the government shutdown. But thanks for cutting to this bimbo here. I'd much rather listen to her tell me about how they're not going to air you, Mike Johnson, because you're a liar. Thank you, CNN. Great reporting. Now, here's OAN sitting down with President Donald Trump. I believe this was yesterday, where Trump just says it like it is. This is what the government shutdown is all about. And thank God it's OAN. We don't have to worry about OAN cutting off the president of the United States and putting on some blonde, middle-aged bimbo woman to explain to us how the president's lying. No, they just sit down with them and they let them speak the way any reporter should. This is the president of the United States. I'm much more interested in hearing what he has to say than some 45-year-old divorced blonde reporter who knows absolutely nothing about the government and literally is just a media parrot saying exactly what she's told to.
It's politics, and they're doing things and asking for things that you wouldn't want, and most people that are sane wouldn't want, and patriots wouldn't want. They want illegal aliens to get taken care of with health care. And it's not, look, I have a bigger heart than they do, but it's not even that. Everybody in the world is going to enter our country and say, give us free health care, give us this, give us that. It's going to ruin all of the things that we have, all of the plans that we have. Obamacare was never any good, but it subsists. It's there. And everything will be destroyed because no country has enough money to take care of that. So they want the illegals. They refuse to get away with open borders. They want to do open borders. If they ever got in, they'll open up the borders. We have closed borders now. You only come into our country legally. But they would open up the borders in 2 minutes, and you understand it better than anybody because you've covered it so well for so long. Even though you're a young guy, you've covered it very well. They want transgender for everybody. They want men and women's sports. They haven't learned what happened in the last election. I think they forgot. And it's pretty amazing, actually. But in terms of the dollars or the money that we're talking about, they want us to take care of illegals. They want us to take care of people that can absolutely get a job. They're healthy and strong as you can be and young. And this is not what this was all about.
Now, I just got to say this. If you just listen to everything Trump said that the Democrats want done here, basically to undo everything Trump has worked hard to accomplish since January of this year, then please dislike this video. Do not subscribe to this channel. Block this channel. Click off this video and never come back, because here at American Advocates, we advocate for America first, and we love everything President Donald Trump is doing. And if you love everything he's doing, then be sure to subscribe to this channel. You're welcomed here. Leave a comment down below what you think about this government shutdown. I think it's going phenomenally. If you agree, let me know as well. And finally, I'm going to leave you guys off on this story with Trump hilariously trolling all Democrat politicians who work for the government by taking control of their phones' answering machines and creating a new voicemail that explicitly blames the Democrats for the shutdown. After that, I'll show you CNN's meltdown over that as well. Not only did they melt down over Speaker Mike Johnson delivering hard facts and truth, but they melted down over this voicemail. It's amazing.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line.
Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions. We look forward to hearing from you again very soon. And in the meantime, please know President Trump will never stop fighting for you. Thank you, and God bless you.
Now, what's even funnier about that is, according to some reports, some of the Democrats have returned to their offices upon learning about this voicemail being set up on all of their phones, and they've tried to record a new voicemail. They've tried to override it. Somehow, I don't know exactly how, I'm not a big tech guy, somehow it's set up, though, in a way where it goes right back to the original voicemail that Trump has forced all of their phones to have, so the Democrats can't stop this voicemail from being the predominant one set up on all of their phones within the government. Hilarious stuff. CNN can't stand this. They're breaking down over the massive Trump trolling between this and the sombrero memes on Hakeem Jeffries and all of the AI speeches Trump has been sharing. It's absolutely phenomenal. The Democrats don't know how to handle Trump's trolling, and they continually walk right into his traps and look incredibly foolish publicly every time they do.
Of what this message says, in part, it is the very partisan message that calls out and blames Senate Democrats for the shutdown, saying the House of Representatives passed a clean continuing resolution. Unfortunately, Democrat senators are blocking passage of H.R. 5371 in the Senate, which has led to a lap in appropriations. Now, we've seen this language come from other agencies during this shutdown, suggesting to their workers to send similar out-of-office emails. But what's different here at the Department of Education, John, is that employees did not give their consent and that this was done without their knowledge. And I had one employee tell me today that they actually went back into their email, changed their out-of-office message twice, and it was reverted back and overridden by this actual partisan messages. So it's very concerning. The Department of Education also, and notably, not denying that this is happening. They tell me, quote, the email reminds those who reach out to the Department of Education employees that we cannot respond because Senate Democrats are refusing to vote for a clean CR and fund the government, adding, where's the line? Some federal workers raising real concerns about potential violations here of the Hatch Act, which of course states that that federal employees are required to perform their duties in a nonpartisan manner.
This is very concerning, according to CNN. Oh, you know what's more concerning, CNN? The fact that you cut off the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, delivering his remarks about why the government was shut down, and instead decided to put a blonde moron reporter in the camera who knows nothing about the government. That's much more concerning, but you go on and continue crying about voicemails. What a time to be alive. On to the next story. And man, oh man, if you are a Democrat who has decided over the last 5 months, all of a sudden, that the Epstein files really matter to you, despite the fact that you likely said nothing about them from the years 2021 through 2024, while your dementia-ridden presidential hero Joe Biden was in office, who, by the way, did absolutely nothing to be transparent, to release the files, didn't even talk about them. If that's you, and now you want the files released because Trump is in them, and this is it, this is our silver bullet, this is how we get rid of that mean orange man out of the office, well, you might want to just dislike this video first, then click off the video and never come back, because you're not going to be happy with this story. This is not a story I've seen reported anywhere yet, but it is very, very fascinating. This is Glenn Prager. He's a Jeffrey Epstein investigator for the Department of Justice. And a secret conversation between him and a woman were recorded while he was at an airport, and then after the airport was also at a restaurant with this individual. And Glenn Prager was overheard stating a lot about Trump's involvement with the Epstein files, as well as other people's.
While the Clintons were on the plane, while Bill Clinton was on the plane, there were rapes that occurred.
Overheard at Phoenix Airport on September 8th, 2025, a senior Justice Department investigator who personally worked on the Epstein case tells all. Glenn Prager, who has reviewed Epstein itineraries and has interviewed Epstein's victims, drops a bombshell. He says that the DOJ did not want to go after Epstein because he's a CIA asset, that the evidence from his investigation confirms that Bill Clinton was present for alleged rapes on the Lolita Express, and that President Trump was not present for the rapes that Glenn Prager investigated, but that he is protecting a lot of other people that were.
Now, this is an incredibly narrative-shattering story that is easily found on the internet, but like I said, for some reason, not being widely reported. And I got to ask why. It's very suspicious to me, all of this that's happening, and it does seem to confirm even some of the conspiracy theories that we've heard centered around Epstein, like the fact that he was a CIA and possibly Mossad agent. This is a lot of good journalism taking place here, and I'm going to share with you the name of this page that has uncovered all of this at the end, and you should absolutely follow them on X when I do, and absolutely subscribe to them, and possibly even donate to them, because they are doing incredible, incredible work. Prager, as seen in that first clip there, Prager is on camera recorded, where he says that Bill Clinton was absolutely on the Lolita Express plane where you-know-what was taking place at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and very likely underage girls. However, what he also goes on to say, I'll show you right here, is that Trump was not involved, despite the amount of flights that he did take on that plane. And we've known this. We've known Trump has been on that plane multiple times. In fact, from the information I've seen, Trump was just allowed to borrow Epstein's jet a couple of times when he needed it and flew on that jet by himself, oftentimes, from Mar-a-Lago to New York City and whatnot. So this is no surprise to us. We've known that Trump's name is on the Epstein list, but we've also always argued that he's not on the client list. Epstein kept a list of wealthy, powerful people who he would loan out favors to and then try to use that to blackmail them later. And we know how the story goes. And the Democrats hate hearing it about how Trump was his friend because he very likely didn't know who Jeffrey Epstein actually was. This was in the 90s, of course. And the Democrats just argue that, of course, Trump being his friend alone makes him guilty. As if Jeffrey Epstein would be the kind of guy to say, hey, I'm Jeffrey Epstein. I'm a billionaire like you. Let's be friends. Oh, by the way, I have an island where I commit depraved acts against minor children. Hopefully that doesn't discourage you from wanting to be my friend. I mean, the logic is just never there because, of course, Jeffrey Epstein would not introduce himself that way. And I guarantee you a lot of people were in Epstein's circle who had no idea all of the depraved acts he was doing. That's just how life works. It'd be no different than if you were somewhat acquainted with a guy who turned out to be a serial killer. Well, does that make you guilty of that? No, you had no clue. So here's Prager discussing it again in a recording, basically clearing Trump's name from wrongdoing and not even being aware that that's what he's doing on a recorded line.
Many are trying to tie Trump to Epstein, but what Glenn Prager says is that Trump wasn't present during the inappropriate sexual behavior that he was investigating. But Prager does say that Bill Clinton was, backed up by his experience interviewing the victims and reviewing the Epstein Lolita Express itineraries. Quote, "They killed the Epstein list to protect the Clintons."
They claim that, that Trump's, involved in the rapes and all that stuff, and he wasn't. I mean, I've seen the agendas, I've seen the itineraries, and I've interviewed all the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids and a rape occurred. But that can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. I remember that it was being killed because I know Clintons were on there. And
the Clintons were on there?
100%. And while the Clintons were on the plane, while Bill Clinton was on the plane, there were rapes that occurred. And that's what I'm saying. Trump, although as many flights as there were and all that kind of stuff, and on the island and all that stuff, he was never there during a single alleged rape. But Clinton for sure. And that's where the big cover-up was.
The Department of Justice investigator inside the Trump Justice Department says that while Trump may not have been present during the crimes that Prager investigated, it is clear that Trump is, quote, protecting a lot of people.
I don't know what's new that I have never seen that he's so hesitant to now show what's going on, and releasing all those files. I think he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there, but he's protecting a lot of people.
And so that right there, like I said, confirms some of the kind of conspiracy theories that have been going on centered around the Epstein files, delayed release, around Trump, etc. I have a hard time disagreeing with that assessment. I think that that's very likely somewhat true at the very least. And it still does make me angry that the Epstein files are not released. That's the other thing. The Democrats are the ones now parroting this whole, it's the Trumpstein files, or, release the Epstein files. They spew that everywhere. It's like Russiagate 2.0 for the Democrat Party. Like, this is the new big scandal that they think they have on Trump that could get him out of office. And I got news for you. It's not going to get him out. Russiagate failed. This will absolutely fail, especially with information like this being leaked now, which confirms that once again, the liberals are just wildly off base with these theories and are spreading a bunch of nonsense. But that being said, I have kind of always had my doubts on that as far as when it comes to Trump protecting some of the names on this list. A lot of people have. And this guy, Glenn Prager here, is pretty much confirming that that is the case, at least to some degree. Now, some of the darker conspiracy theories that tie in with this is that perhaps Trump is using this list as blackmail to force cooperation from some of these powerful names on the list who don't want it released and now have to do everything Trump says. And, you can't confirm that, obviously, but with some information like this being put out now, it doesn't even seem that far-fetched anymore, does it? So there's still some questions that need to be answered here, and I still stand by the very fact that the truth will have its day regardless of which side tries to keep it hidden away. It's way more fun, obviously, to watch the liberals be exposed by the truth and look terrible, but if Trump is going to play with fire like this, it could wind up coming back to bite him, even if his name's not on the list like this investigator says it's not in any incriminating way, of course. So I think it's a mistake still by the Trump administration to not release the Epstein files. It's a huge mistake. This is like a soda can that's been shaken by an industrial press of some sort. Like, this is like, it's ready to explode. And I think the worst decision that Trump has made this year by far has been keeping the Epstein files contained. That, and of course, appointing Attorney General Pam Bondi, who didn't help. In fact, she actually made it a lot worse. Everything she's done this year has made Trump look bad, to be frank. So that's been their biggest mistake. It's all been centered around the Epstein files and the containment of them. But this is the kind of juicy information that shatters the liberal narrative of Trump being guilty and hiding the files to hide his own guilt. The very accusation itself, of course, defies all logic. The only reason we're discussing Epstein and the files again is because of Trump and Trump's willingness to at least discuss it. At least before he got in office, he was open to the idea. And even when he was in office to some degree, he was. That's not what you saw out of Joe Biden. And again, you have Glenn Prager talking in that segment on the recorded line. He didn't know he was being recorded. recorded. You have him even saying that the Epstein file thing was killed because Clinton's name was on it. Well, which side of the aisle is more likely to kill the Epstein files release because of the Clintons being on there? The Republicans or the Democrats? We sat through an entire abomination of a presidency from Joe Biden, and nobody in his administration pushed for any transparency centered around the Epstein files. None of them pushed for the release of them, and the Democrat sheeple voters didn't mention it at all on social media. This is just a giant virtue signaling Democrat grift because they think they have something on Trump that they don't have. On the topic also, like I just mentioned, where Pam Bondi has made Trump look kind of foolish, well, Glenn Prager actually gives some juicy details on that about how there is apparently a feud developing now between FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi, just like how we kind of thought there was all those months ago. You know, these two were framed as being good friends when Trump was first initially sworn in as president, and these two were selected by him. But it became very obvious very quickly that there is a massive divide in the Department of Justice. And I gotta say, it's likely because of Pam Bondi's sheer incompetence. Though I'm not a big fan of Kash Patel either. I think he kind of sold out on the American people as well. But it is interesting, so take a listen to that.
Has not. Prager revealed more information about Trump's hesitation to be fully transparent with the Epstein case. Gave us some details about internal gripes against FBI Director Kash Patel from within the FBI, and he detailed a developing feud between Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi. If you'd like to see more of that conversation in the restaurant, you may subscribe to OMG and find it on our website.
Who was like the one name where you're like, oh my God?
And so there you have it. Excellent reporting by that group, O'Keefe Media Group. Please go check them out. Consider donating to them. This is by far some of the best reporting and journalism, investigative journalism I've seen on the Epstein case. And I've checked out their page and they do great work all around. Now, they've even posted this. This is an official statement by Glenn Prager where he states, "I was approached in what I believed was a casual, non-professional context, and I later learned the individual was misrepresenting themselves. Thinking it was simply personal banter, I responded in kind. Any remarks from that exchange should not be interpreted as accurate statements or reflective of my actual work, conduct, or opinions. I want to ensure there is no confusion caused by that misleading interaction. Please stop calling and texting. It's approaching harassment. Printing any story related to my opinion is misleading and or is completely inaccurate. To make it perfectly clear, I was not involved in any way, and any opinions are based on public information." And now, in my personal opinion here, of course, he's going to state something like this. He was caught red-handed. He definitely should not have been speaking about such things. This is no doubt classified stuff that he was openly discussing with someone. And let's be real, it was a woman he was talking to. Need I say more? But again, this is their page, O'Keefe Media Group. This is their official X page. Go check them out. Give them a follow. And I didn't cover everything of that video they released. That is a 13-minute video where Glenn Prager discusses so much more. I highly recommend you go check out and listen to their full video. It's really, really eye-opening, really interesting stuff. And again, if you're a Democrat, this is terrible news for you, but if you're a conservative, it just confirms all of our sneaking suspicions, doesn't it? And finally, for the final story of this episode here, I've uncovered a couple of eye-opening facts about Zohran Mamdani, the mayoral candidate for New York City, when it comes to his campaign funding. Right here, first and foremost, look at how interesting this is. Now, again, this is a New York candidate, New York City candidate. Why? It all starts with this question. Why is it that outsiders significantly are representing the majority of the funding that he's receiving on this campaign? For instance, California actually ranks number 1 when it comes to the state donations. $762,631 coming from California. New York is second to them. Mamdani's not a California candidate, so why is that happening? And the total out-of-state donations exceeds $1,831,706, which accounts for 78% of the donations for his campaign funding. That's an interesting question to ask, isn't it? Only 22% then is coming from New York. And so that leads you to the next logical question, of course, which is who's really funding him? Well, I've done some research on that. As it would turn out here, there's radical funders tied to the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, also a New Mexico school shooting plot, and then Hezbollah and Iran propaganda machines are celebrating the fact that he's a New York City mayoral candidate. Even the China Communist Party themselves are enjoying the fact that Zohran Mamdani is running for mayor of New York City and dominating when it comes to the early polling. Here's a prime example right here. This is radical Islamist cleric. I don't know how to say the name. Siraj Wahhaj, W-A-H-H-A-J. He is an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and he's funneling cash into Mamdani's support network. And it gets even deeper than that when you learn about what his 3 children are also doing as well. Here's the apparent mugshots of 2 of them, and 3 of this guy's children were sentenced to life in prison in 2024 for running a New Mexico terror training camp for school shootings. I kid you not. This is a BBC article covering it from August 8th, 2018. U.S. suspect was training children to commit school shootings. And you can see below the pictures there in small print, suspects Siraj Wahhaj, there's the guy donating to Zohran Mamdani, and Lucas Morton. Mr. Wahhaj is also suspected of abducting his 3-year-old son. And it says a man arrested after 11 malnourished children were found in a remote desert compound and was training them to commit school shootings, U.S. media report. According to prosecutors' documents, Siraj Wahhaj was teaching some of the children, who range from the ages of 1 to 15 years old, how to use weapons. That's one of the people donating to Zohran Mamdani's campaign. One of them. There's a whole host of shady campaign donors for this guy. Here we have right here, too. Take a look at this. Lebanese Hezbollah outlet celebrates Zohran Mamdani's potential win of New York City mayoral race, noting that it propels him to become a member of the U.S. Congress, vice presidential candidate, Secretary of State, Justice, or Homeland Security. They're loving this overseas. They love this. This is Iran's state media bragging that Mamdani's team has mobilized 100 plus mosques across New York City. That's another thing they're celebrating as well. Here's another interesting piece of information I have found as well. Zohran Mamdani's mother, you can see photoed next to him on the left there, and as well as in the 2 middle photos, has received millions of dollars from Qatar for her film projects. And it's important to note, Qatar is a known funder of Hamas and one of the top state backers of Islamic political influence worldwide. Yes, this is a worldwide campaign effort by Islamists, and Mamdani is an excellent representative of that worldwide effort. They are actively seizing to gain power worldwide in a whole host of different countries. And if you don't believe me, take a look at France, take a look at the United Kingdom, especially the United Kingdom. They've pretty much conquered that country internally. It's startling. Take a look at Dearborn, Michigan. I have videos out there on Dearborn, Michigan right now. And a whole host of other countries, Africa, they're all over. They're all over, spreading their influence once again. On the very right of this photo here, take note of also Mamdani's father. He's an apologist for I don't even know if I should say that according to terms of service, but you know the word, bombers, the ones that wear the vests and blow themselves up. He's an advocate for that. This is a statement on the topic by Mamdani's own father. You can see highlighted here, we need to recognize the bomber first and foremost as a category of soldier. Does not the bomber join both aspects of our humanity, particularly as it's been fashioned by political modernity, in that we are willing to subordinate life, both our own and that of others, to objectives we consider higher than life? Bombing needs to be understood as a feature of modern political violence rather than stigmatized as a mark of barbarism. I'll leave you off with this clip when it comes to Zohran Mamdani and reasons why he should not be the New York City mayor, but very likely will become that regardless. This is him on MSNBC, where even they could no longer disavow what he was saying. This was the reporter calling him out on the globalize the Intifada saying, asking him to condemn it. And if you don't know what that means, it's essentially an anti-Semitic saying spoken by Muslims. Does Mamdani choose to condemn it and disavow it? Take a look.
There's been a lot of attention on this issue, so I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the Intifada?
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead this city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights.
But quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
My concern is to start to walk down the line of language and making clear what language I believe is permissible or impermissible takes me into a place similar to that of the president who is looking to do those very kinds of things, putting people in jail for writing an op-ed, putting them in jail for protesting. Ultimately, it's not language that I use. It's language I understand there are concerns about. And what I will do is showcase my vision for the city through my words and my actions.
There is nuance in what Mamdani is saying. I get it in that second answer where he says he doesn't want to get into the business of what language is permissible and what language is not permissible. But what did you make of his decision? And it clearly is a decision. He knew he could be asked about this. His decision on Meet the Press not to condemn the phrase.
I'm outraged that we have a candidate for mayor of New York, Mr. Mamdani, that cannot walk back or cannot condemn the words globalize the Intifada. And his nuance of, well, it means different things to different people. Let me tell you what it means to a Jew. It means violence. It means October 7th. It means firebombing people in Colorado. It means violence. That's the connotation. That's the essence of it. And that's what it means to Jewish people. And if any other group came forward and said, you know what, these words are offensive to us, it means violence, it frightens us, I think there would be a response. But for some reason, if Jewish people find it offensive, it's not offensive. And I find it offensive that he cannot condemn those words. And I think he's overall running a campaign of divisiveness. He also came out in the last 2 days and said, we're going to tax rich white neighborhoods. Why do you have to put white in there? Just say we're going to tax the wealthy. I just find it offensive. I find it offensive that in the past he's talked about defunding the police. I think he's walked that back, but yet he voted $3 billion out of a police budget. And I just find there's a recklessness and a divisiveness to it. And I'm offended as a Jew that he can't walk that back.
There you have it. Honestly, Zohran Mamdani's entire family has no problem sharing their pro-Hamas views. He just remains quiet enough about it to not stir the pot too much while he runs for mayor of New York City because he knows better. And, you know, as a millennial myself, I'm not some Israel apologist. I'm not incredibly pro-Israel, but when it comes to the sides, I definitely lean towards one side a lot heavier than the other. And that other one that I don't lean towards is absolutely Hamas. That's just me, though. That's just my thoughts and opinions. I don't know what else we expect out of a guy who literally eats rice with his hands. Not utensils, but with his hands.
So the third holy grail of taboos in American politics, you have socialism, you have Islam, and then you have Palestine. And you are really going for the trifecta.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go. Tell me, why is Palestine a part of your politics?
When you grow up as someone, especially in the third world, you have a very different understanding of the Palestinian struggle.
Well, there you go, everyone. Your future New York City mayor, Zohran Mamdani. That's what people are voting in. And yes, the Democrats defended this right here. I mean, it's not a crime, but they defended it. I'm sure actually a lot of Democrats have even taken to mimicking eating like this now. Why not? Why not? Let's just get rid of utensils. Let's just stop eating like the higher beings we are and resort back to our animalistic ways. And I gotta say this, if you eat rice with your hands like this too, please dislike this video and never come back.